Okay, let me try to get the emulator on. This thing is not running for some reason. This is the widget test. I think this one was running last time. Should be running as well. So no errors there. Da, 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 da. Okay, Meridian, play. The app is launching. So what we need to do is when we running the applications, uh, sometimes it is not or open anyway. Okay, it's starting on my da, da, da. Not the one I expect, but okay, let me share that. It's the same thing. Share my screen, Meridian, and it's good. Okay, I hope you guys can see the screen. This is actually not an emulator, but it is what we call a simple desktop app. But anyhow, it works since if I'm launching this one in the application, it should work as long as we have shared libraries, which will work on both Android and iOS as well as macOS. It should work. Okay, so I think this one is working. So no worries there. Um, okay, back to the topic. When we are sorry, when you are working with when we are working with testing in our application, we should think about not only one single widget. Yes, it is important that we test thoroughly our widgets. That is like when we're considering the test pyramid, we should always write more and more unit tests, like 70 to 60% of the test coverage that we have, all the tests that we have, from that, even 70% of those test cases should include like unit tests, because as the reason discussed, it's the fastest test execution that we can get. So it executes really fast, and a lot of things can be covered up. Then we have like a component test, or we call that in integration tests. So all those things should make up like 25 to 30% of the test percentage that we have. And above about the other things, when we consider the possibility of having other test cases, including end-to-end tests, that is the smallest portion of tests available, and that should be like 5 to 10% maximum. The reason is being end-to-end tests, it's taking a lot of time to execute, and it is taking a lot of resources in order to test these things out. So better, we should start with what we call is testing. Um, do testing in our application with lots and lots of unit tests. Okay, that is like the mantra that I'm going to be telling you guys. Always have a lot of testing in here. Okay, what we will do is we will run uh, the application in an end-to-end test. Then we will see what's going on with the application. Okay. So first of all, we will be using something uh, to like incorporate our test case, probably we will be using the same application that we had earlier on. Okay, so in order to do end-to-end test, sometimes you might hear these as like integration test, but from the perspective of the user perspective from our end, I would like to name this as like end-to-end test, okay, because we are testing out a lot of things uh, in terms of the application itself. Okay, so first of all, what we need to do is, in order to write end-to-end test, okay, this is like what we have a widget test. The next thing that we do is create integration test. Okay, in order to create integration test, first thing we need to do is integration test is not included by default. Okay, so we had earlier on we had Flutter test incorporated in our application, like when you are start default Flutter project, you have Flutter test already there, okay, but not integration testing, okay. In Flutter we have this integration test, but it's like an end-to-end test, if I would say. So what we need to do is we need to add the Flutter integration test package. Of course, you can come here and add the dependency by yourself. And the next way of doing that is using the pub tool. Okay, so we can use the pub tool in order to get the things done. Okay, since we will probably using the pub tool to get most of our dependencies, I would use the same pub tool that we have in order to get that done. Let me move my terminal back down here. Close this. Where's my terminal? There you are. And yes. So let me get the command straight. Clear this up, and this is the command. So by using Flutter pub, using the Flutter CLI tool, I'll be invoking pub, and I will add dev Flutter test. Okay, I think we have already have that, so no need to worry. And we have dev integration test. Let me, yes, dev integration test and SDK Flutter. So by simply incorporating this, it would add the Flutter integration test into our application. Then we can write integration test on top of that. So it's going to be easy, and it's going to be really intensive to write end-to-end tests. But as I remember, as I said, try to have much less of these tests as much as possible, because it's in all the devices. Let's see how this goes and see how we can manage that. So for the last one, we had the widget test that we did. We did not need any device. But when you're writing integration test, we need a physical device or emulator or something to run this test case against. So I'm going to add this. And remember when we are adding these things, okay, when we are adding the application that we are working with, it is always add as a dev dependency. So it's under dev dependencies. That's because at the end, when we are done with our application, we don't need these test cases hanging around in our production build. Our production build does not care, or even is unable to use these packages. So it's going to be extra burden for the application. So we won't be using this. We won't be needing those things. So that's why we are using dev dependency. It's same thing that we have learned in Android, where we have implementation libraries and we have testing libraries. So we have dev dependencies. Earlier we had Flutter, Flutter test. Now we have integration test. The SDK is also Flutter. Also, they have added Flutter lints. So linting is about having the best practices, and we are following the code and rules and everything. It is sometimes it's pointing out some compile time errors that may occur, but sometimes it's also good to have these kind of error best practices on code. Sometimes we might name a variable wrong. Sometimes we have unused imports, and sometimes we have unused parameter. So linting helps us to give us an indicator, hey, you are not using this variable, please have a look around it. If you are not using, just remove it. Okay, so the linting help us to find code, not bugs, but best practices that we can go. So we will avoid bugs. So linting is added. Uh, just a recommendation for good coding. Okay. And of course, sometimes these links are like changing by organization to organization. It's so if you are having different lint patterns, you can customize it. That's off the topic of testing, but it's something good to know from you guys. So our main target, integration test, and we have the SDK as Flutter. So what we do is we have our lib directory. So we have pages and everything, and we have test directory where we normally put our widget test. Then next thing that we do is we do not mix up testing type in our application. So tests normally include widget test, maybe unit tests. But for integration test, it's recommended to create a directory under the source file. So we have lib, we have test, and we have integration test. So the integration test is a different directory. So we can say, all right, now what we are going to do is we will have set of end-to-end test or integration test in this case in a separate directory. So it's easy to identify, okay, these are widgets-based tests, unit tests, and these are integration tests. Of course, we can put everything in here, but that would make a lot of things hard. So we will just put integration test in here. So we'll write the integration test that we have in here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we will write our first integration test. I would call as for the documentation app underscore test dot. Okay. So this is the dot file that we'll be writing our integration test. Okay. So it's going to be simple, like what we had in the where we have test right over here. So where we had widget test, we'll be having the same sort of test scenario. So we will be having some sort of similarity in here. So what I'll do is I'll just have this. I'll have a few basic things. So right now, what you can see test widgets, the widget tester, and the asynchronous modes and everything. So the integration test would have this similar structure, similar naming conversation and everything. You will find that widget test and everything is like quite similar, but we'll just do with our hand void main. So it's indicating this is the starting point for our tests. Okay, so this void method is no, why not? Then the thing that we're gonna do is we have this statement integration test. We just Flutter blind. Okay, so what this section do, integration test widgets Flutter binding. That means, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be running these tests against real or emulated device. Okay, so we need to make sure before we do any testing, Okay, the application is launched and it is loaded, and make sure that the application is ready for testing. It's like when you do it via a manual person, a QA engineer would come and he or she would have to wait until the application loads. Okay, so this integration testing package, what it do is it's wait until the application loads and try to execute all the test cases that we'll be writing. Okay, so it might take a little bit while to initialize the application. If you are running on a slow device, if the device is having thousands of applications, so it might take a little bit time. So just in case, if that sort of things happen, this line, make sure that is coming from integration test. Make sure that application is in a state where it is ready for testing. Okay, so just like a normal person, just like a um, um, normal human person would do. Okay, we can come here and interact with the application. We can interact with these components. But if you guys can remember, in widget test, we did not find anything like interacting with the application. Uh, we just interact with that widget using find by IDs and all those things. But in here, we'll find the things, but in a different way. But at the end, we'll be interacting with this application. Let's see how we can get. So next thing that we will do is we will be using something called a group. So basically, a group is saying what sort of similar test cases is going to be executed in here. So I'm going to be running some end-to-end tests. So I can say um, end-to-end test or E2E test, E2E tests on homepage. Okay, so that's give us more idea what sort of things that we'll be executing within this group. Okay, so a single group can contain multiple uh, test cases. Okay, like we did in the widget testing. So you can easily identify what sort of things are gonna go inside. And we can group by their functionality, we can group them by their relevancy, whatever. Okay, so you can have multiple test cases over here. So what I'll do is I'm gonna do another thing, the test widget. And what I'm gonna do is, as like we did last time, we'll be giving a short description about what this test is all about. So we'll be saying like verify the counter. Okay, this is our test case. Just to make sure that what we will be doing right now, we'll just say verify the counter. Okay, so in here, what we'll do is we have the widget tester rather than having a void, I would go with the implementation in here. I think I need okay. Can remove this, and I would say tester, and it's gonna be an async task. Okay, like this. So what we will do is verify the counter, and this is the tester, and it's going to be a asynchronous thing. That means it will take some time, and the interaction would be done not synchronously, but asynchronously. So we are marking this whole test widget function as a asynchronous function. So we know for sure that it might take a little bit of time, and all the statements that we're going to have within this testing section would be taking time to execute. Okay, so we'll be using await functions to this. So first thing that we do is we use the tester. The tester, this is like the tester that will be using for doing all the testing tasks that we have. So tester, we'll be using the pump widget method, and we have to pump the widget that we're going to be const. It's going to be my app. So this is basically, as you can see, it's like quite similar to widget test that we had. Yes, you can see the pump widget, and this is kind of the same in here, but the interaction point would be different. Okay, so pump widget basically create the widget and do a tick, not a tick, but we call that. We do a pump. That means we build. We do a widget. You guys can remember widget always have this override method called build. So we'll initiate one single build. So pump widget, in the sense, it's gonna create this widget and do a build. That means the initially the UI will be rendered for us. This is gonna take some time. That's why we'll be using tester. It should be annotated with await pump widget. Okay, so right now we are awaiting till the application load, and we are waiting, or we are pumping up the my app application, and we will be rendering it on. Okay, so we can test this one right now. If I click on this play button, let's see what's gonna happen. So you guys can see that it is taking much more longer than what we anticipate on a widget. Open anyway. Yes, it verify the counter. You guys can see it's just executed, but you guys could see that it is the time it took to load it up and get everything is done is little bit higher than what you would get to get that done in what do you call, in normal widget test. Okay, so I have to like it is loading. I'm not sure whether the frame rate that you are seeing is giving you guys a good idea on what's going on. But let's go in here and do some changes so you guys have a much more better idea what's going on in here. Okay, let me check. Give me guys a second. I think it would be probably good if I have an Android emulator. Yes, this one would do, but we need to make sure the emulator is Android. Just because, close this window. Sometimes the emulator, the Android emulator, makes more sense to have it in here. Flutter debug. Meridian performance. Oh, launching Flutter. I think now it should launch in my emulator. I have to be careful that I don't close it by accident, like last time I did. Code and Android Studio running device. Okay, it's running, but up till it's running, we'll just go ahead and start the other sections. Okay, so we got the section where we will be like pumping the widget. That means it's creating and it's gonna be running out. And what we're gonna do is we'll do next set of tests and expect to find a text containing 0, find one widget. So these methods, you guys can remember, this is same method that we got from the application where we did widget testing. So we expect to find text containing value 0. So and how many widgets that's going to contain value 0? It's going to be only single one. So that is our expectation. So the first thing that we would do is we will be finding a widget that is containing value 0, and there should be only one widget out of that. Okay, that makes sense. When we start the application, when we are starting the application for the first time, it should show the value 0, and the text over there is going to be 0, and there will be only one text widget. So we need to make sure we are saying that, okay, you will have one single widget which containing the text 0. Okay, let's see, it is running, but taking a lot of time. That's odd. Let me quickly check whether Flutter identify this. Um, Flutter devices, as I can remember. Yes, so it shows me. Yeah, macOS desktop, of course, that is there. Chrome, it's as for the default web, and AIM TP phone, this is the ARM emulator which I want to run. Okay, let me check why this is not picking up. Let's say Flutter run. By default, it should run on the application in debug mode. It's giving me an error. Okay, let's see what's. There's a failure occurrence, Android build gradle internal tasks, text migration, text migration exceed 14K, then how to issue multi-index. Okay, there seems to be issue. That's good. We'll try to find this out. The number of method reference in a DEX cannot exceed 24. Let me clear Flutter. Okay, it's asking to ask multi-DEX support. Yes, why not? Something I even don't know, but hopefully it's resolving the issue. I should look what multi-DEX is all about. So always I get something out of that. Okay, so now you guys can see the initial stage of the application is as it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna finish the application. I'll just close the application. Let me try to launch it again. Hopefully this time the debugging session goes well. Okay, that's the job. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna execute this test. Pay a close attention to the emulator itself. I hope you guys can clearly see the emulator, because it's gonna be very important what you're about to see. I think I can make it much bigger. Oh, that's nice. I didn't know. I knew this earlier on, so I could make it much more bigger. Okay, so right now, at this stage, you guys can see no app is running, and even I can close anything that is remaining in here. So nothing would be here. Okay, So nothing is here. So what I'm going to do is, this is, remember, this is an end-to-end test. This is always going to be running on a physical or emulated device. So if I run this test right now, it is gonna run in the device that is attached to it. Okay, so now I have attached my um, Android simulator, or sorry, emulator. Now it should be attaching to the emulator itself and execute the test and execute the test, and it should it should give me the results back. So that is the expectation. Let's see how it goes. So it's running. Test result. Hopefully it will be completed. If it is not running, we have to debug why this is not running. That is Gmail. Nope, it is not running. It should not take that amount of time. Let's see whether the launching will help. Normally it shouldn't be like that, but let me test on it. So I'll run the test once again. Executing. No, it's not running. Let me check. I have stopped it. Okay. Let's debug this. Maybe that would help. Oh. Oh. Not, I need to search. But running okay. It's not running. Let's stop it. But I think I have another way of doing this. Let's use the terminal. Hopefully the terminal would give me good result. So let me put my terminal on. So we have another way of doing this. Let me clear. Flutter test, integration test, app.test. Let's see whether this one works. Gradle assembling, loading files, Flutter tools, base conduct. Okay, it's giving me an error. Let's see what's all about. IO Flutter multidex in Java 13, Android multidex does not exist. Okay, seems to be an error. Compiling with Java docs. I think I had to figure out this multidex issue. Let me check what we can go for it. Flutter multidex error package multidex does not exist. Let me do a quick Google search. Um, mm, mm, mm. Okay, it says that I need to have a dependency in here. Okay, that's weird. Something new, suppose. Okay, let me go to the Android application itself. Android, I have built within the app, I have build.gradle. Then what they are suggesting is to have a dependency. That's the dependency section. Yeah, there you go. This is build.gradle, and I would have this multi-dex dependency thing here. Okay. Nope, not now. Check whether this is related to Flutter. Okay, let's hope it is not gonna happen. I have incorporated the dependency. Surely it should work. If not, let's further debug. So these kinds are good. Unexpected errors. These might happen. Yes, it's still not resolving. Okay, it's giving a much more detailed exception now. Okay, there is a link at least. Copy. I would just read it through and see what we can do. Man, that's huge. Too many max converting format, blah, blah, blah. Dependencies, multi-dex version. Avoid 64 limit. Okay, the version has been updated. This one, and under Android, you have to set multi-dex true. Android default configuration. Under here, we need to have multi-dex enable for some reason. Okay. Okay, let's see this one works. If not, there is another thing that we might need to do. Okay, it seems to be working. Yeah. And you guys can briefly saw that it worked. The only thing that we had to do is like multi-dex enable under default config in Android configuration. This is like the build.gradle file for the app, by the way. And we have the Android X multi-dex version. Currently, it's 2.0.1. So at this dependency, enable multi-dex in here. Okay. If you got stuck, it will always point out the documentation, so it will be easy. Honestly, I have no idea what multi-dex is all about, but I can read it through, and you can get an idea what's really going on here. So there is an unexpected there, but we resolved it. I want to show that these things will happen. Don't worry. We can but get it done. Right now, what I did was I just pump the widget and see a text, and it is working. So if I run it again, look at the emulator, and if I run it again, what will happen is now the test is running. I think it is running 2 times. I'll stop one. Yes, now automatically it says test starting, and it started to run everything. And what we do is it's ran the test and it's immediately went off. Okay, it might be a little bit hard to see on over the video call, but hopefully if you do this yourself, you'll see. But let's try to get um, more test in here so you guys will see. Okay. The next thing that is what we'll do is we will find what we call, oops, we'll find the button. If you guys can remember, if I is this the no, what's the application called again? Message phones, YouTube, write music. No. Oh, it should be Meridian, right? Meridian. It's not showing in here. Okay. Maybe one of these. No. These are like old application we have developed for you guys for other lectures, maybe. Ah, this one, I think. Let me install it once again. So it should work. So right now, what we have done here is we are expecting a find a widget which containing text 0, and there should be only one widget. That is true. All our test pass. That's great. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on this little fab icon you hear. I am not sure whether this Zoom controls are blocking it, but we can see there is a plus button over here. So once we click on it, it's going to increment as we have seen it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be clicking on this. So if you look at the widget test right around here, we did something like tester tap find by icon and click on that icon. Let's see that is something we can do. So I'm gonna do that once again in here. Okay, and I will try to run my integration test. So as you guys can see, not like widget test, it is super slow. Okay, because the app should compile and app is running, app should be launched, and it should be like, worked, the um, it should launch in the simulator. It should run all these tests. You guys can see it should wait until these things happen. So it's taking a little bit time when it is coming to end-to-end test. So let's run it again. So what I did was first I will find something with 0, one widget, and I click on find him by the icon, and it should have text 1. And is it failed or not? It's not giving me anything. Seems to be failed. It is not giving me a proper answer. So let me run it through with the terminal that we have. So if you want to run this via terminal, not by VS Code, all you have to say Flutter test and the test file that we need to do. So it's in integration test app.test. So we can run that right now in here, and we will get something similar. So you guys can see it is showing us all which steps that is taking. It is assembling, loading, and everything. So this view or this command will give us more insight on this. Okay. So what happened? Actual find 0 widget with text, ignore offset widgets, which means none were found, but one was expected. So that means we were the tester tab uh, might be not the might not be happened, like it did not click. So let me run it once more time. Let me see in slow motion. Whether my naked eye can grab. Probably you guys won't be able to. So it did not tap uh, on the eye icon. Okay, it did not tap on that. Did not tap with the widget at least. So our test did not go well. Okay, it did not execute. There can be a couple of reasons. Of course, this one is a widget test. Okay, within this widget test, we are testing one singular widget. Okay, so we can go through the widget tree and find something like this. But right now, when we are testing it as an integration test, what it really does is it is uh, 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 it's really does it's like acting something from outside. It is not gonna be something that we can interact in the widget tree. So the interaction with that button would not be possible if we do something like this. So there should be a better solution. There should be something that we can do to improve this kind of things. So better finding on the uh, objects or the Flutter widgets that we have. Okay, so this is not working as it is expected because the widget tree is not loaded fully in here. We are testing the end-to-end test. We are fully testing this as something from external, so it won't work. So what we can do is in our application under libs, pages, home dot. So this is our application. Now something what we can do to get a reference, get a hold into this floating action button is to define what we call a key. Okay, so a unique identifier sort of thing. So we can define a key in here. There's a key attribute. We can say const key and a value for the key to identify this one. So I can say increment, increment, increment. Okay. So by defining a key to this floating action button, what it is going to do is it's going to identify this button as something we can be detected on our end to end. Okay. This is going to load. This is going to be loading into our application, the key, and we can interact with this floating action button by using the defined key in here. So how are we going to do that? In my integration test, I would say find by key, not by icon, find by key. Okay. Then all I had to do is give the key name that we have used. It should be double quotations. Find by key. Okay, it's the key is expecting actually a key instance. So I need to say const key and the key value like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the widget that I want to interact by providing the key, the same key that I have provided in the floating action button. By that way, the test suite can identify, and using the tester, we can tap on it. So let's run it one more time. Okay. Moving. Did it work? Okay, it's saying 0 widget with key increment. Did I put it in the right place? To tip, it is increment. By key. Same key, right? Otherwise, it will not work. Find by key const is increment. Let me put it in a final fab, so it is easy to read, and tap on the fab. And I have to await because I tapped on it. It's gonna take some time, and it should work. It's my main dot. So I am running my app. My app is running on my home page. My home page is a stateful widget that has this incrementer. Oh, I think I have inserted it in the wrong file. Make sure you do it in the right file. So I looked up on it. So I went to my main dot. So run app, it's running my app. So if I look at my app, it is a material app. Running the home, it is saying the home page. So home page, if I go down, it is containing all the logic, and there is the fab button. There should be the key. My mistake. So let's run it again. Same, if you're having same code, you might get into these kind of troubles. I had the same thing in home.dart, so I did it somewhere else. Okay. Let's see whether the end-to-end test right now is executing. Of course, you guys can obviously see it's very slow. Yes. Now I think test description was this. The following test failure has thrown running tests. Means per not found was my expected widget. Find text, find one widget. Okay. So that's good, that's happened. So if you let me try to get what we call a waiting function. There's something that I have seen. I'm not sure whether it's going to work, but let's find out. Find tap, pick a sync. I think this one should work. Pick a sync is another third-party library. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, since you guys might be, lagging behind on the video, so I pump the widget and I expect to find 0. That is okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the increment. I'm going to find the fab which contains the key increment. Then I'm going to tap on it. Then I'm going to wait a little bit. Okay, I'm going to wait like 4 seconds. What this code does is it's going to wait for 4 seconds. And this will just give you a glimpse of what you guys can't see over the internet. It will wait for 4 seconds and it will expect to find one widget with containing the value 1. Okay, so let me run it again. I think we can run it from here now. No worries. As you can see, end-to-end tests are super slow. That's why we have less of these things. It's super slow to run compared to other. So we are running. Yes, you click on it and we are waiting for seconds and test finished. And there you go. It's completed right now. Okay. We waited a little bit so you guys can see it. And after that, it was able to find that. So the thing is, it takes a little bit time. If I run this again with the integration using the command line tools, okay, Flutter test, whatever the test file path, then the output would be the same. It would define the correct output, start in the test. Now I click on one and waiting for seconds, test finish, all test pass, no worries there. But this is something that I add to showcase you guys that it's gonna wait a little bit and execute. Okay, it's like a dummy thing that we'll do, but in real life or when you're running end-to-end tests, if you add these kind of delays, okay, if you add these kind of delays into your code, then what will happen is it's gonna make things more worse. Okay, so we can't have these kind of um, delays, if I say. Okay, it's for like demonstration purposes, it's okay, but we can't have something like this. Then what we need to do is, if you guys can remember, we use the in integration test, we use something called pump. Okay, we use something called pump in order to draw another frame. Okay, in here we haven't used such a thing, so we tap on it, but we did not pump. Okay, that means we did not tell Flutter to render another frame for us. Okay, so we will be doing that. It's the same thing. What we have to do is, sorry, wait, wait, test, pump and settle. Okay, so this is the method that we'll be using, pump and settle. Earlier we had pump. Okay, remember these are two different things. Pump, in here we use pump and settle. Okay, trigger a frame uh, frame render. Okay, so widget test we use pump. In end-to-end test we use pump and settle. And we run it again. Once again, we don't have that future delay thing, so it's commented out. So we using this one. So if I run once again, yes, now the application again pass all tests. But if I did not settle, pump and settle, and I don't have any future delays, that means I'm not waiting for rendering to happen. Let's see how the test goes. Again, it is taking a little bit of time. As I mentioned, end to end is slow. There you go. If we forget to pump and settle, the execution will be so fast, it won't wait until the changes are there. It will fail. Okay, so make sure you have to pump the settle, pump and settle. Then you have to check. Okay, it's taking a little bit of time to make that happen. Okay, yes, for final time, we go through the code explanation. So this is going to be an end-to-end test, and we will be using pump widget. Of course, in here we use the pump widget. We'll pump the widget, and it is going to run. And we, for the first time, uh, you guys can see the pump widget would create the widget and do a frame rate. So this is like an initiating thing, and we can expect 0. We can expect a text view, and it should contain 0, and there should be only one widget of it. And there is a button that we need to tap on it. Okay, we don't say normally click on when it is coming to mobile application. We call tapping. Okay, we tap on a button. So we need to tap on a button, which we should find. We can find it by simply giving a key. Okay, of course we can find something like ID, the icon and all those things, but the ID, if you give, that's more suitable. One way of doing that, find by key, and the key that we have provided within the floating action button is the same key that we'll be using in our test. Okay, so find by key, we have the key in here, and what we have is the next what we do is we provide the found widget to the tester.tap that indicates, okay, tester would go and tap on the fab button that we have found using a key. Okay, simple enough. But as soon as it does, it's not gonna render the frames. Okay, it's if you do not have this pump and settle method, it's gonna immediately execute. It's not gonna wait until the frame is frame is getting rendered out. Okay, so we have to say, hey, slow down, tester, pump and settle. Okay, we do our changes and let it rest. Once it is done, we can expect uh, that there will be a text view containing value 1, and there should be only one widget of it. Okay, that's fairly simple and fairly straightforward. So that's the basics of end-to-end test. So numerously, you can see time to time it is executing on multiple devices. Okay, it's executing. It's executing on emulated device, not like what we have seen in this widget test. So widget test does not involve running this on any emulated device. It's gonna, you guys can see how fast the widget test happened. Okay, the widget test happened really fast because it's not involving any emulator. It's not executing these things in a device. It's just gonna take the widget and test it, and it is done. Okay, it's like a virtual kind of thing. It's going to be running on the Flutter engine, as I heard. So it's really fast. But end-to-end test, like what we have seen in here, it's super slow. Okay, it's, you guys can see it should load into the emulator. Emulator should wait until everything is done and gonna execute these things. So you might ask, okay, what's the point of having end-to-end test in the first place? Okay, what's the if we have the same functionality on widget test, the end-to-end test is just slowing things down. Okay, it's going to slow things down, and it would make no sense to run end-to-end test the same thing. As you guys can see, we did a similar kind of test in integration test as well as the widget test. But the widget test is like 10 times faster. Okay, so we are wasting resources by waiting on end-to-end test, and we are waiting. We can write the same test scenario in integration test. Sorry, in widget test, which is much faster. Okay, then you might ask, why do we need end-to-end test? Okay, so the main reason behind having these kind of things, at its heart, you guys can see now we have interacted in this widget test. We have interacted with only one widget. Okay, we have loaded the uh, my app widget, then we have interact with this widget. But in integration test, we can load a flow. Okay, we can load a flow. That means if I click on that button and it is navigating to some place else, we can go to that place, that page, and we can do some testing or no there. It's like testing a whole flow that can be done. And the second point of having end-to-end test is, as you can see, these tests are running on a real device. Okay, these tests are running on a real device. So sometimes what will happen is uh, some devices will run this code without an issue, but sometimes some devices will not work as expected. So I'm not sure whether you have the experience, but I have seen such scenarios in while I was working on a Flutter project. So the application was running perfectly on at that time when I was running. We had a Samsung Galaxy S8 and a Sony Xperia device. So those are like the main two devices that we have. We don't have like thousands of devices that we can test. We had only like two devices. That's like the most common those days, or maybe what we can find at the find what we at the office. So we had only two of those devices, and the test was running on both of devices. Okay, end-to-end test, we ran the end-to-end test, and it was working perfectly. It did not find any bugs on the widget test as well. So everything was perfect. But later on, the same application, same thing, it was working on three devices. The same application that we were trying to run the same application on a new model. Okay, it was I think HTC phone. I'm not sure. I can't remember the exact thing, but it was a newer model came out in HTC. All of a sudden, the application break on HTC phones. Okay, for no reason. We couldn't even find out why. But since the widget test does not have device specific things, but when we write the end-to-end test, when we execute the end-to-end test on a real HTC device, it fails. Okay, so some devices application works, some devices give errors. Okay, so think a situation where like a lot of people are using HTC phones, and we are under the assumption the application works in Samsung and Sony, so it should work on HTC as well, so no issues. But ultimately we have found that it is not working in HTC phones. Okay, so if we had an HTC phone earlier on, and if we have connected to that, what we can do is we should have found the issue with why our application is running on uh, two physical phones and one physical phone is not running the HTC one, the latest model. So apparently the issue was something to do with the software version or uh, the way they have handled a certain action. Okay, the certain action, they have different way of interacting with that, and that caused an API glitch and it did not work. Okay, so these kind of things might happen. Okay, that we can't like always say these kind of things will happen, but there is a possibility of well-known application would run on several separate devices, but would not run on other devices. Okay, so the main reasons behind these things, why these things are not running, uh, it's coming to few things. The operating system version. Okay, sometimes the OS that we are running, sometimes we are testing on Android Let's say we are testing our application on Android 13 or something new. We are fine. We are executing the test cases, end-to-end test cases on Android 30. All this time, someone who has Android 31 have downloaded the application, tried to run, and it did not work. Okay, that the most common case of these failures is that we could not run this application on Android 30 or 31. The latest OS will break. That is the most of the time the case. The latest version will break something and the application would break. So we need to make sure always, if we get hands on a later SDK version, let's execute those things in at least an emulator, see whether it is working. If not, immediately we might need to release a patch saying, okay, some of things in API 31 has changed. So here's a fix. So if you download this, it will work on API 31 as well. So that's kind of things will reduce the amount of disappointment that we have from the customers. So the customer satisfaction is like always something that we should have. So it will at least reduce by providing this update, they will be able to work on that application without a glitch. So that's one thing. And the second scenario most of the time is screen size and resolutions. Okay. So for some reason, most of the time, the components, when we are developing applications, sometimes the UI get distorted on different resolutions. Okay. Sometimes we might define things um, in a more huge and large devices. But if you put the same thing on a smaller device, it does not fix. Sometimes the UI elements are not visible. Sometimes it is out of the viewport or the view area that we have. So what will happen in that scenario? The end-to-end test, or sometimes the phone itself, the emulator itself, can't interact with those buttons. Okay, sometimes the buttons are cut off. So we need on a such case, we should like first of all, we should have like more responsive kind of design. So it's like running this application on a tab, and we expect that to be running on a mobile is something vague, but at least we need to make sure the responsive kind of layouts are used within our application. Okay, so most of the time the application get blocked or get not working due to the responsiveness issues. So we need to make sure that we run the product in very small devices, at least smaller in screen size, very small devices, as well as the huge bulky ones as well. So we know for sure the application is running on smooth, right? Sorry, running smooth on smaller screen devices as well as huge bulky devices. But if you do a widget test, the widget test does not consider the screen resolution. It's going to pump the widget, it's going to interact with, and there you go. It's working like that. But in end-to-end test, what we can do is we can select a device, and on that selected device, it's going to execute, and the screen resolution, it's going to be something similar to the real device. So it's mimic the environment that it's going to run. Okay, so that's the difference between why we need different kind of tests. Okay, I know it's for sure not the fastest one among the three: unit test, integration test, or even the end-to-end test, but that is something very helpful. That's why it's within the test pyramid, we have said like only 5 or 10% maximum you should go with end-to-end test. Okay, obviously you guys can see it's very slow compared to other two. So to keep the balance in our application, we need to make sure that we put less um, end-to-end test amount within the application. Okay, that's the most convenient way to do. Sometimes when you want to test a flow, there is no other way than running end-to-end test. Okay, so testing flows, most of the time it's involved in running end-to-end test. So make sure that you find end-to-end test within the application, and less amount of a tests are there. Okay, so it shares some similarities with integration tests, but the functionality where it's run, execute, and how they execute are totally different things. Okay, any questions on end-to-end test, guys? Anything that you need to clarify? Okay. All right. So you guys should be able to run widget tests as well as end-to-end tests as of now. So make sure you practice these things. These are super important to your examinations as well. So make sure you understand these things, understand the difference, understand where they're going to be using, understand how these things are explained. Okay, if I give you such a code, you should be able to explain what's going on in here. Okay, that is like a super important thing that you might need to do. Okay, but don't expect like uh, the error that we have encountered, the DEX, multiple DEX issues, those kind of things are like uh, can happen, cannot happen, we don't know. So those things are not there, but the what we call the um, things that we have learned here, what sort of things that we have done, those are super important. Okay, why we use these and what's the output is the most important thing that you will see in here. Okay, any questions on integration test or widget test? Okay, perhaps not. Let me stop. Oh. All right.